rolling. So, what's your name?
Hello. I am Edy Hurst.
Alright.
I feel like for both you and for the camera, I want to say that I'm not looking at either of you out of being rude. It's just I'm driving a car, and I feel like it would be more rude to look at you than we're coming up with some crafties. So
well, I think that's fine. I normally have the kind of camera like off, like you know, like off kind of centre, and then hopefully you kind of forget that it's there anyway.
Here's hoping.
And where are we now?
So we're in a car. Where are we? We're on the Handforth bypass. Who doesn't love that? Second favourite bypass. On the way to a gig in Bollington, which is near Macclesfield.
Okay.
South East Cheshire, yeah. I think, if anyone's that keen.
And how would you describe yourself?
I don't know, mate. That's tough. I think I'm polite. That's what we open with. That's. I think that describes me more than the fact that when I was asked what words would I use to describe myself, I thought, well, you better choose something. Polite.
All right. Okay. And would you describe yourself as an artist as polite?
As a polite artist, in some ways, yeah. Yeah, in some ways, I suppose I'm polite. I don't think I'm rude. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not. I'm a lot less polite in my art than I am in my life. But I'm not antagonistic, and I'm not like deliberately like. I don't feel like I feel like I'm neutral as far as polite to mean goes.
And what's the reasoning behind your choosing to go down that kind of less antagonistic route?
Crippling anxiety and a desire for people to like me first and then worry about laughing at me. Initially, when I started comedy, that was it. Like, I think for a while when I was performing, I was a bit like, why aren't these people laughing? Well, because turns out, Eddie, actually, your intention when you've been writing and putting stuff together is that you wanted people to like you and think you were smart, and then you think whether you've got a joke or not. So, but I think, like, so that was it initially, and also because generally I censor myself a lot in communication to try and like ingratiate myself to human interaction. I guess that was initially it. I think I'm a lot less polite now because it's just too much work. Like, I mean, in performance and in the world, but in performance particularly, I'm a lot less polite.
And have you found that being less polite has been a benefit, or do you think that it's ultimately a hindrance?
No, I think I think caring about it less has been a big benefit because it's been a change of priority.
And what priority? So was it the priority of less get them to like me, more get them to laugh at me? Yeah, I mean it was pretty very early on the liking me to I should do a joke, because very quickly I got very annoyed that people weren't laughing, and then it changed from being the reason why they weren't laughing is because I wasn't very good, as opposed to deliberately stopping myself from getting laughs. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Alright.
So you also incorporate music into your acts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a musical comedian, so I guess.
Okay, so would you class yourself as a musical comedian then? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I would.
Why?
Oh God, they're the worst. No, we're all right. It's like I think the thing is, it's like it's tricky. Because there's not as many musical comedians on the circuit. And whereas you see so many sort of straight stand-up comedians when you're performing around and doing gigs and stuff, that you get such a variety of them that you couldn't just say
from a perception point of view, all of those talking comedians, they're awful. Oh God. Whereas, and also because there are more of them, you as a performer are more aware of things that are hack and like repeated and a bit obvious, and maybe are tricks rather than actual like humour. Whereas I think with musical comedy, generally there's because of the nature of it, it's often people who... No, it's not that. It's... yeah, I'll just have a conversation with myself, guys. This makes for a great interview. It's often like you see so few of them, but also the ones that are really good you probably have a much lower chance of seeing than the ones who aren't very good. So I think you see a lot of them who aren't as good more often, and a lot of them who are just rolling out the same tricks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's...
So what is it that draws you towards musical comedy rather than just being a straight up musician?
Well, I did music. I mean, I think it's the story of most comedians. Like, regardless if a musician or like musical comedian or not, I did a lot of bands at school. Like, you know, when you spend ages coming up with a name, and then it turns out you're not actually a band. You just got really excited about doing an album cover, that sort of thing. And then, so I've always played instruments, and then gradually music started creeping into my comedy. So I didn't start comedy like, oh yeah, I want to be a musical comedian. I mean, I always liked musical comedy. Like, Tenacious D were massive when I was growing up, like massive influence on me, and I loved Flight of the Conchords and the Mighty Boosh. And I think looking back, I probably watched more musical comedy and consumed more musical comedy than I did straight stand-up. Yeah, so the reason why I never went into music is because I don't work very well with a band. I'm not very good at concentrating, so I'm not very good in a band. And I didn't really, I don't know, I just never really had the interest in doing it, and then it sort of creeped into my comedy. That's what a ramble. What a journey we went on there.
And okay, so you started off with doing comedy, and then music kind of crept in. And what was it that drew you towards comic performance rather than, say, poetry or acting, for example?
Well, hey, listen, if anyone's watching this who has any form of industry sway, I'm more than available for any poetry you may have in mind. You know, don't rule me out of that. And I guess the acting too. Wink. Oh, fuck it, I feel sick. So, what was the question? Sorry.
So
my crippling...
Yeah, what is it that draws you towards comic performance rather than non-comic performance?
So I did acting at school, and in theatre productions and things like that, and I was involved in like the National Youth Theatre of Great Britain. I got, like, they say it's Great Britain, but I don't really think, like, I think if I said National Youth Theatre, it'd probably be obvious I meant the one from the country I live in and have spent the majority of my life in. But I've said it now, and I can't change that. Unless we can do some editing. But then I feel like, why bother, mate? You're wasting so much of your life just editing that out. I liked acting, but I sort of found it a bit frustrating in a way that you don't feel like you're having a conversation with the audience as much as you do if you... I remember like performing and I was the main role, which was very cool, and it's my play. I am the main antagonist, I'm the anti-hero, I suppose, of this play, so I will like, they're here and they're watching me, and I just kind of felt a bit like something was missing from it. There wasn't quite a connection with it. Like, I was getting a big adrenaline boost and everything, but then at talent shows I'd sort of perform music, and then I'd be essentially me on stage, and I'd do some jokes at the start and all that, and that was like really immediate and really like
I was there with the audience in that moment, in that space, which was really exciting, and I think was what I want. Like, it felt like that's what I want from performance.
So, I mean, you mentioned a lot of kind of interactivity and being in the moment. Yeah, you do musical comedy, which is very kind of.
What are you trying to say?
No. It's very. So it's very like set. How do you kind of try and find a middle ground in terms of interactivity and being in that moment with songs which are much more set?
Yeah, now that is a reasonable question, but one that I also would caveat by saying I feel like if you performed musical comedy as a musical comedy performer, there's actually not that much of a difference between, say, a one-liner or actually, say, a standard stand-up, because the amount of time you spend honing and writing and rewriting and editing your bits is the same as you do with a song, and you can change with song. Like, I've done gigs where a song that I do is absolutely really hit really well, everybody in the room has loved it, and then the next gig I've just slightly changed the intonation on a line and it's been like yeah, no, that was a fine joke, but carry on, which is a lot like standard comedy, I think. And with me, like, I think my songs as well, they're very short for the most part and snappy, and a lot of it is actually I guess I've not really realised it until, like, a lot of the ways that I write my songs and the context of the songs are actually to do with being in that space. I think maybe I'm talking shit, but it's, like they take a turn and they are like jokes, like it's a change of context halfway through, it's a pull back and reveal or something, which you can record it and you can put it out like that, but it's like a 30-second song. That's not how people digest most of their music.
So do you think that that's really interesting about like one-liners and like musical comedy. So do you think that there is a connection between what we find funny and rhythm?
Yeah. I mean, this timing has a massive part in everything. Like, with performance, like all performance, and especially comedy. Like that's a standard. Is what a tragedy plus time equals comedy.
And what do you think that rhythm is?
I think it is a 4/4. No, it's not. I don't even know. I can't. I wish I could figure out how to count time like that, but I never concentrated enough in music class. I don't know. I think it's different. I think it's very different and very subtle, and I don't think that there is a universal way. Because I think that's the thing with rhythm, is it betrays the idea that there is a universal thing that you could remove. Whereas, like, actually, it's like improv. Like, it's timing, innit? Like, it's timing, being in the right context, in the right space, and saying the thing at that time.
And do you think that changes from gig to gig, or do you think that that's something that you could potentially artificially create?
For me, it changes from gig to gig. Like, I think, no, not exactly. Like, I'm not gonna, largely the timing's the same. Like, there may be a little subtle change. Like, I might do, if I feel like I need to win the audience over a bit more, I might go quicker so that the punchlines are shorter and like closer between, so that it's like, right, build them up, and then we are in the room and we're actually in a state of comedy.
And would you ever do that with your songs, where you change up the rhythm or the is it timbre of the song in order to accommodate that particular gig? Sort of.
I mean, well, it's the way I see it though is like, if you were to take like an Emo Phillips joke. Like, I'd like to do my tribute. Like, one of my favourite jokes is, he goes, "I'd like to do my tribute to Elvis." Thanks, Elvis.
I like it. But that needs that pause. So if you went, I'd like to do my tribute to Elvis, thanks Elvis, it's not right, is it? Like, it just wouldn't work. Or it might, but not in the same way.
Okay. So, what is it that you get out of comic performance?
A bit of money every now and then. Sometimes it feels like your electricity, which sounds like it feels so good, but it does. It feels like you and the audience are the same sort of thing, and you're both after finding the laugh and being with laughter.
So do you think that for you it's finding a connection?
I think, yeah, part of it is. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's about feeling like I'm communicating, and a lot of it, I think, is feeling like I'm being listened to as well.
And is that something that you don't feel like you get in other aspects of your life?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, certainly in the past, when I was a child, I wasn't really like, I don't feel like oftentimes at like school and things, my opinion, I mean, that sounds very precocious for a child to be like, I don't think my opinions are being valued. But, you know, like, I guess you're, like, if you're upset, or if you have a problem, or if something has happened and you don't understand why, as a child, like, regardless of what age you are or where you are, if you don't understand it, you want to understand it, and if you've got an issue, you want that to be addressed. And I certainly feel like throughout childhood I didn't necessarily have that, and so I think there is some like emotional baggage with that in a way.
So do you think that if there was a gig that you did, a hypothetical gig that you did,
yeah,
where you felt like there was a connection with the audience,
yeah,
you got that sense of connection that you want to create, the sense of rhythm, etc., was all there that you wanted. However, the audience didn't laugh that much. Would that be considered a successful gig for you, or not a successful gig for you?
I'm not sure if I would necessarily get the feeling that I was in connection. I think the laughter is part of that, and I think that it doesn't have to be like loud. It doesn't have to be loud laughter. It just like laughter in the right places.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the vibe of the place is like. You know, like last night I did a gig, there was a Korean comedy night, which was perfectly nice, but at the start they were a bit sluggish because I've had a big curry. Because obviously, like, you know, like, you digest, literally your body is digesting, so you can't necessarily react as much. But then, like, later in the night, they got really into it, because it's so stupid, but they just digested some food. Their body had sorted that out, and they could then focus more on giving a more physical response. So yeah, I'm not sure how good an answer that is to the question, but I kind of feel like the way that I would perceive whether the gig went well or not is both of those things, like, because otherwise it's not a comedy gig if they're not laughing, you know.
And what do you think it is that makes it like not a comedy gig, to use your word? Is that at the fault of the actor or at the fault of the audience? In this hypothetical gig situation.
Well, I mean, I suppose I was being a bit flippant with the it's not a comedy gig, because I mean, when I say that, I mean, like, if you've gone on, you've done a performance and you felt a connection with them and they didn't laugh, it's like, you know, people don't laugh at poetry, like, sometimes they do, but people don't generally laugh at like a moving poem, but there will be a connection in the room, but that's not comedy.
Whereas I suppose if you were to say like, oh well, you as a performer, you went up there with the intention of doing comedy and nobody laughed. I don't know. I guess there's not a universal answer, is there? There's not like it's each situation, because it might be that you've been hired for some reason to perform at a wake, like it was the wish of the person who died. Like, I want a comedian. I loved laughing. I want a comedian at my wake, and everyone else is like, no, we're really sad. Please don't do jokes. And that comedian could be given it stacks, but it's at a wake, like whereas I don't know.
And this will probably be my final question. So moving forward for you, what would you like to get out of comic performance?
Oh God, that's a great question. Well, is it? No, no, come on. No, it's a terrible. No, it's fine. It's you can tell the questions where I have to be more personal, because there's a lot of flab before I get to any answer. Like thinking, oh God, this is emotional. Let's try and reflect this. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I think I'm in a bit of a decision place where it's like a balance between career-wise and performance-wise. Like, what do I want from comedy performance? Well, like, I'd like to be able to do these mad ideas and have people, like, find people who really like that and really want to come along to that. Yeah, I guess that's it. I'd like to do stuff. I'd like to perform and be in a room where people find what I find funny too.
And if someone said to you, again, a hypothetical situation,
sure.
some genie turns up and goes, you can have that where you perform the stuff you want to do and people enjoy it. However, the monetary side of things is not going to be there. Is that worth that trade-off for you?
What does that mean? So, like,
well, you said it's kind of performance versus career.
Yeah.
So if someone says to you, all your performance things are will be fulfilled, but the career side of things won't necessarily be. Like, how much are you willing on that scale to go towards performance versus career, or career versus performance?
Well, I don't think they're not. I don't think they're unconnected. I think it would be impossible for me to be in a situation where, unless it so happened that there are only 2 human beings in the world and neither of them are millionaires, multi-millionaires, or just fuck it, like have $100,000 they want to drop on a show. If they're not, if that's not the situation, is it? Like, there's bound to be more people. Like, I don't think it's possible. Apparently it's here. Anyway, the gig. Maybe it's coming up on the right. No, I don't. So I don't think it's possible to have one or the other. And also I would not. Oh yeah, it's down there. Right. And also I would not take the genie up on his offer, because I feel like I am getting there. Anyway.
Fabulous.
The end.
There we go. Really good stuff. Thank you.